Picture this. You are 40 years old, have worked hard your whole adult life, and are just now ready to buy your first home. Does that sound late? That is now the average age of a first-time homebuyer in America. 10 years ago, that number was 31. If that doesn't tell you we're in a housing crisis, I don't know what will. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most pressing economic issues facing Americans, the housing affordability crisis. Trust me, by the time you reach the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why housing has become so expensive and what it means for your financial future. But let's start with the numbers, because they're absolutely staggering. The median home price in the United States reached $410,800 in the second quarter of 2025. Yet here is what really matters. In June 2025, the median existing home price attained a record high of $435,300. That is not just expensive, but historically unprecedented. Now, you might be thinking, well, maybe wages have kept up with that increase. Unfortunately, they haven't. Roughly 1/3 of all American households, including half of all renters, are now considered housing cost burdened, meaning they spent more than 30% of their income on rent and mortgage payments. When housing eats up that much of your income, there's simply less money left for everything else: savings, retirement, emergencies, or even basic necessities. And it gets even worse when you look at specific areas. Rural homebuyers now need to earn $74,508 annually to afford the median-priced home in rural counties, representing a stunning 105.8% increase from before the pandemic, when they only needed to earn $36,206. That's more than double in just 5 years. But renters are not doing any better. The housing wage, that is the amount an hourly worker must earn to be able to afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment and not spend more than 30% of their income on housing, is $33.63 per hour, which is over 4 times the federal minimum wage of $7.25. Think about that for a moment. Someone working full-time at minimum wage would have to work 4 jobs just to afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment. So what is the cause of this crisis? The answer is really simple. We don't have enough homes. A severe shortage of over 4.7 million homes characterizes the United States, though estimates vary. Recent estimates include 1.5 to 5.5 million units. Variation is driven by different methods of calculation. However, no matter the exact quantity, everyone can agree that we're facing a massive housing deficit. The root of this shortage is something you've probably never heard of: restrictive zoning laws. An estimated 75% of land in American cities is bound by zoning practices that exclusively allow single-family residences. This means that in most neighborhoods, it is literally against the law to build apartments, duplexes, or any higher density housing, even if people want it. These laws create what's known as artificial scarcity. Other common zoning barriers include minimum lot sizes, height restrictions, and parking requirements, which often work to minimize supply and hinder development. Suppose you have a piece of land and you want to build housing on it. What happens when the city tells you that you can only build 1 house? It needs to sit on at least 2 acres, can only be 2 stories high, and needs 4 parking spaces. Building affordable housing suddenly becomes economically impossible. But here's where it gets interesting, and where there's actually some hope. Cities that have reformed their zoning laws are seeing real results. Minneapolis updated their zoning to make it easier to build apartments near commerce and transit, eliminated parking minimums, and made permitting easier. The result? Rents in Minneapolis rose just 1% during a period when they increased 14% in the rest of Minnesota. The solution isn't simple, but it's clear. Build more housing and make it easier to build. Increasing supply is at the core of any solution aimed at bringing the crisis in affordability to an end. The recent peak in multifamily development resoundingly confirmed that more supply equals more affordable housing. Some states are already acting. California, Massachusetts, and Oregon have all passed legislation overriding local restrictions on zoning to permit more housing. Other cities are also eliminating parking requirements, allowing accessory dwelling units, and streamlining new construction permitting processes. Here's the bottom line. The housing affordability crisis affects all types of individuals, whether trying to buy their first home, rent an apartment, or even concerned about where their children could live in the future. Fortunately, we know what works: build more housing and remove regulatory barriers. The challenge is mustering enough political will to do these things on a large enough scale. Understanding this crisis is the first step towards demanding change from your local representatives. Because at the end of the day, housing isn't just about having a roof over your head. It's about economic opportunity, building wealth, and securing your financial future. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want to stay current with the economic issues most affecting your wallet, please hit that like button and subscribe to Money Mind Studio. We break down complex financial topics so you can make smarter money decisions. How are things going in your area with housing costs? Drop a comment below and let's keep this conversation going.